Gonzalez, the gallery director here, and you're in for a real treat tonight. We are so pleased to have Dr. Aurelia Hartenberger here to talk about the wonderful instruments from Africa, Latin America, and Asia that are now on view here in the galleries. In late 2014, Dr. Hartenberger, her husband, and her children gave the Sheldon Art Galleries in Sheldon an amazing collection of over 2,500 musical instruments from, spanning the history of about probably 30,000 years or something like that, from all over the world. And so this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just one small portion of the collection. The exhibit that you'll see here is made possible by a generous donation from Edna May and Maurice Graham. That's the exhibit itself, as well as the Hartenbergers. And Aurelia has done all the writing for these pieces, worked very hard to curate, and she curates all of these exhibits. I also want to let you know, this fall, in August, we'll be opening a show out at Lambert Airport, another aspect of the collection out in their gallery, so stay tuned for that. We'll do an opening for that as well. I'll give you a little background on Dr. Hartenberger. She is a graduate of Washington University in St. Louis and is currently Associate Professor of Music at the University of Missouri, St. Louis, at Webster University, and Maryville University. She served as Curriculum Director of the Maryville School District from 1990 to 2006. Dr. Hartenberger is a member of AMUS, which is the American Musical Instruments Society, and the Galpin Society. She has also served as the Southwest Division President of the National Association of Music Education from 2003 to 2005, the President of the Missouri Music Educators Association from 2000 to 2002, and President of the St. Louis Suburban Music Educators Association from 1992 to 1998. In the field of education, Dr. Hartenberger has been named 5 times as Teacher of the Year at the local, district, and state levels. In the field of research, Dr. Hartenberger's most recent research work has been published in the symposium proceedings of the 2007 Symposium on Assessment in Music Education, called Connecting Standards to Assessment Through Core Conceptual Competencies. And she is cited in the Music and Literacy Connection 2003. Dr. Hartenberger has also been published in many educational journals throughout the United States and has presented clinics and workshops in 10 states on neuroscience research and learning. She is the USA patented inventor of the web-based curriculum success tool and is a contributing author to the New Groves Dictionary of Musical Instruments, where about 100, I think, is it?
Close to
200 instruments are actually a part of that, that dictionary, which is an amazing thing. She also serves on the governing board of the National American Musical Instruments Society. So you'll hear from her about the instruments you see, and we will be taking a walk, so feel free to either grab your chairs and move them along or just walk on foot. That's just up to you, and we'll begin.
Well, I too want to say thank you very much for being here tonight. I mean, it's a really hot night outside. And thank you, Olivia, for that nice introduction. I'm going, is that really me? But anyway, it's my pleasure to be here. And also, this wouldn't be possible if I didn't say there's another very important part of this, and that's my husband, Jeff, and he's standing in the back. And all I can say about this collection of instruments and etc. was I just was a person who had a passion about something, and the passion outgrew me in my home. And that's how we come up with all these instruments. And I have a very good husband who is understanding about that passion. My passion is about music and all of the arts. We eat, we drink, and we sleep by this thing called music. Religious people pray by it. We even lay our loved ones to rest by it. We romance by it. Can you imagine any kind of celebration that would go on and there's no music or no art? It's in everything we do. It's in our lives daily. But it's not just our lives, it's in the lives of people all throughout humanity. Now, when we go to school, we understand and we're taught how to communicate through English, right? Math is important, and we got to balance that checkbook and all that kind of stuff. We know science is really, really important. We have to know about our bodies and about animals and about chemistry, and that's all really important. History is really important, isn't it? Because we don't want to keep making the same mistakes, so we've got to learn about history. But then we teach these things called music and visual arts. And you go, well, what's that have to do with me getting a job? This is what the arts are. Mankind takes everything he has learned, his math, rhythm, his science, frequency, sound, his history, geography, everything that he learns, he takes and he internalizes it, and with his emotions, he gives back in the form of what we call art, visual arts and music. So if you want to learn about your humanity, or if you want to learn about the dignity of a human being, you study the arts. Because we are the only creature on earth that has an art form. Now you say, okay, I understand that, but then bringing it back to this. There's a saying that goes like this: mankind preserves the things he likes. He likes the things he understands. And he understands the things he is taught. And that's what I see the Sheldon doing. We have not only just a display, but it's important to them that we teach and tell people about what these instruments and what these other cultures. We're going to visit the continent of Africa, the continent of Central and South America, the continent of Asia. And we're going to see through them because they created it with their emotions, what they want left said about who they are as a society. So when we look at these, we go and we not only see them, but we feel, what is it? And we ask several questions when we look at these instruments. I go, there's 4 questions that I always ask myself. Where did that instrument come from? Well, here we've got it divided up by continent. Number 2, both music and visual arts wise. The second is, what's it made out of and what makes the sound? In music, we call those things, in world music, we call it areophones, instruments that a column of air makes a sound. We call it a membranophone. That's an instrument in which a membrane or skin makes a sound. Idiophone, the object itself, like a rattle, is making a sound. Chordophone, a string makes a sound that vibrates. So in world music, we classify it by those 4 main categories. There are 2 more that are added. since Kurt sucks, and that is electrophone, electronic impulse. And the other one is a corpophone. A corpophone comes from the word corp, and that's your body. Clapping is an instrument, patting is an instrument. So there's really 6 classifications of world music. So that's the second thing I asked. When I look at these instruments, I go, what makes the sound? Is it a string? Is it air? Is it the object itself? The next thing I would ask is, how do you process it? How do you make the instrument? When we go to Asia, that's how they classify their instruments. Like if it's a string or a cordophone instrument, it's like, is it plucked or is it bowed? You see what I'm saying? So all those come into play. How do you make the sound? If it's an areophone, do I just blow into it, like in a flute, or do I buzz my lips, as in a horn? So that takes it a little, what is the process of getting a sound out of that instrument? When you look at it, you go, okay, where's it from? Is it an areophone? Is it a chord phone? Idiophone? Membranophone? And then how do I make a sound out of it? The last thing that you would ask yourself when you look at these instruments is why? Why do they make it? What is its purpose? Well, when you ask why, there's 2 questions. What's its use? And then what's its function? There's a difference. If I try to make up take something you're well aware of and explain that, use is something that easily is observed and employed. For instance, take the national anthem. You go to a Cardinal baseball game, and what do they play before the game starts? The national anthem. They are using it to let the people know we're getting ready to play ball. But what's its function? Its function is how it reflects and influences society. Its function is patriotism. So there's a difference between using something and then how it really functions. We're going to see some of these instruments and we'll go, how do you think it was used? Oh, well, it was used for a ritual. Well, what kind of ritual? Well, ritual is anything that you do. It does not have to be religious. It's a practice that you do, that you continue to do because it has some sort of meaning without question. A ritual would be to sing happy birthday on your birthday. That's a ritual. To play pomp and circumstances for graduation. You see what I'm saying? Those are rituals. They don't have to be religious. So, I might use it for a ritual, but then what is its function? And that's what I hope to help tell you on some of these instruments. What is the function of it? Is it for what you call rites of passage in an age group or society? A ceremonial thing? Or is it only to call people in for attention or to signal things? Okay? What's its function? Okay, well, you're not going to get to sit long. We're going to move in now, and we're going to talk about some of these instruments. When you look at the first instrument while you're still sitting, that is a yarba. Last summer I was in South Africa, and I was able to visit the Zulu people and the Indabelly people. And the yarba is from Nigeria and Benin. Okay? They live in Nigeria and in the city of Beni in Benin, the country. And when I was with the Zulu people, I couldn't just walk into their village. They had a signal system to let people know and let you know whether you could enter. Okay? Well, this is the Yoruba people. And right here, this is of the old traditional ways. Okay, there's many, many Africas going on, even and many, many Yoruba people live in many different ways. Some are urban, some are in the village. This is in the village. And so, as you would enter, this is called a slip gong, you would knock on the side of it and ask permission to enter the village. Just like you would knock on someone's door before you open the door and go in their house. You ask for permission. And so this is an instrument that is used basically for that. You're going to see that she is standing. Because she is standing, that's called posture. And your posture reflects your attitude. Posture reflects attitude. Some of these instruments, the people are standing. Then I'm going to bring one up here. She's kneeling, her posture. If you are standing, your attitude is of command and respect. Now look at this. I feel wonderful here today. What does my posture say? I don't look like I really enjoy it. Your posture tells your attitude. If I am kneeling, that's a sign of service. This is a chokwe drum. This is a woman. She's kneeling. And on top of her are these faces. And what she's saying in this sculptured part of the drum by her posture is, I will serve the way of my ancestors. And that's why she's kneeling. I will serve the way of my ancestors. I can tell you the function of this before I can even hear me play on it. So, Africa instruments are very representative of that. The other thing you look at is their arms and their limbs. What are they gesturing? Your gesturing is your attitude. Your gesturing is your attitude. Here's an example. If I do this, what am I doing? Right. If I'm in Africa, this is my gesture for praying. This is the gesture for praying in Africa. You will see some instruments that have their arms pointing to their insides, their internal, and their elbows are out like so. This is saying, I am asking for internal goodness or good health because I'm pointing to my vital organs. So when we go through the very first instruments, a main B2, and it's got handles out here, and we go, oh, that's handles to hold the drum. No, it isn't. They're gesturing. They're asking. That's a ceremonial drum that they're asking for good health or goodness inside. So you want to look for what are they, and goodbye. Their language is tonal. The Awe people, woma, woma, womato, woma. I do that with the drum, so I can't do it without playing the drum. And so that is to say, you know, he's coming, here comes the chief. Woma, woma, womato, woma. Okay, so I can't say that on a non-pitched word because their language is tonal. And so their drums, they talk with their drums. Okay, coming on around, we have here, this is from the Sudan, and this is a lyre. Now, oh, looky here. I've got gestures going on. My hands are up, right? So that's my thoughts, and this would be another anthropomorphic. Okay, it's called a lyre. Now, when you play this, we have it displayed this way, but you play it to the side and you pluck on both sides of the strings. It goes down just like a guitar. And as a matter of fact, the guitar used to be what we called, you could call it a harp or a lyre guitar. And the oldest ones, and some from France that are in the collection, they have the sides and then they have the neck with the frets in the middle. And then they got rid of the sides. They were first lyres. Guitars were lyres. And then they put the neck in it and frets and made it a guitar. But these are played on the side, you pluck on both sides. This is the Sudan. It's called the Tommy lyre. It's made out of numerous items, gourd, skin, cowrie shells. How many times have we seen cowrie shells on African things? A lot, haven't we? So what are cowrie shells? Well, in the 19th century, it was a form of money. But in the 20th century, it isn't. It simply means it's a good luck. Just like when I was young, I used to collect dead rabbit feet for good luck. Do you remember? Any of you remember doing that? And good luck, dead rabbit foot here that brought you good luck. Well, cowrie shells are no more than that, for good luck and for decoration, and that's what they are. Over here, now I told you there was no spirit that would live within the instruments, but this is the egungun, and this is Nigeria and the Yoruba people also. When they put on their regalia, they do consume the spirit of who it is. They don't just act it out. They really believe then that they are in the spirit of the egungun and in that ritual rite passage. Okay? Then we'll walk over here. We have some old, we have some embiras. I have one here that if you'd like to play, you can. And we call them thumb pianos, okay? They're called lamellophones because the word lamella means tongue. And you play, you press the tongue down. Depending upon where you are at, if you are in Eastern Africa, you call it an mbira. Here we go. We have one that's in a calabash or gourd, so it'll have a bigger resonating sound. If you are in West Africa, you call it sanza. Central Africa, they're usually called limki. They all have different names depending upon the language you're speaking. Okay? And so if you're an ethnomusicologist, you have to know the classification because you can't speak all the languages to know what they are. And so we call them thumb pianos, and it's a lamellophone. These are some that are quite old. Both of these, they're from the Chokwe people and the Ivory, from the Ivory Coast. Up here, and it's an idiophone. The object itself is the resonator. Above it is a very old 1800s, and that's the Hemba people, H-E-M-B-A, and they're also from the Democratic Republic of Congo. But that is a rattle. That is a rattle. Its function, they discard it. Or, when we do a little change out here in August, we're going to change a few of the instruments. I'll bring in a palace drum, which is a Yoruba. It's about this big, this tall. And every time there's a new chief, he sets up a new village, and he has his own artisans that make up his palace drum. You see what I mean? To get rid of the other person's stuff. You know, that chief's over. Okay? This funny looking is a sonye, and the reason I put that up is because right here we have bronze. And the Benin people are really known for their bronze altarpieces. They were collected in Europe, they go back 1300s, even before. They are masters at making bronze bills and bronze statues. And they make it through a process called the lost wax process. Now, I'm going to make it really simple, but this is how you do a lost wax process.
Still do that today?
You get, pardon?
They still do that today?
Yes, they do. They sure do. You get a clump of clay. All right. You pour it full of hot wax. It gets pretty thick. And you carve in it the design you want. Let's try this. And you carve it just the way you want it. Then you get some clay and you know, it hardens. And then you put straws in it, little bitty straws. And then you cover it up with those straws sticking out. The straws are in the wax. You cover it up with wax again, and you let that harden. And you turn it over and you get your metal. And you melt your metal so it's a liquid. And that's where the bellows come in, to get the fire going so hard you can melt metal. And because you've turned it over, you pour the wax in, or you pour the metal, the liquid metal where the wax was from the bottom. Now the reason why you've got the straws is there's places you can't get to too well. And so you would pour that through the straw so it can get to where the hands and the designs are. And it's phenomenal, their town, to do this. It is phenomenal. And you let, what that hot heated metal does is then melt the wax and take the form inside, because the clay has hardened around it. And so you put your melted wax in there, it burns out, put your metal in there, and then it burns out the wax. And you let it cool, and then you break off the clay. And take the clay out of the inside, and you have, where the wax was, this metal has taken that form. And that's why they called it the lost wax process. And only one can be made, there's no mold. So, these are quite old, Beni, Yarba, but that's a Yarba, these two are Beni. Some of my instruments, these two, happen to come from a friend of mine who's on the Antique Roadshow, John Webster. And he was one of the originators of Buxton. He has a place in Dallas. Right here is another, now the reason we want to remember this is because this is going to take us, this is the idea for Guatemalan. They got the idea of a marimba from this balafon, which is from the Bakanga people of Congo. And this is the Republic. You know, there's the Democratic Republic of Congo, and then there's the Republic of Congo. There's two. Okay, and these are the Bakanga people. And he's well over about 120 years old now, almost. And he has gourds inside.
Is that a single block of wood?
Yes, it is. It's a single block of wood, and here, can you believe it? The bats are. They call them bats. That's what you hit them with. Right. And he would be down on you like this. Right. Okay, and last but not least, before we go to Latin America, is over here we have some flutes. Now, you know, if you have flutes, and you use them for bird calls, you know, you would blow your whistle, here comes the bird, quack, quack, or whatever, ducks, and boom, 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 you go hunting. Well, these are hunting flutes, some of these, most of these are, but they're not for hunting like we would use them. If you'll notice, this one is in the form of an elephant. And if you look underneath him, there's something sticking out. And what that is a bird feather. They put the bird feather inside when they're not using it to keep the insects out. But it's in the form of an elephant. That one's in the form of a bird. This is, right here is the Nuna people. It's in the form, and the arms are up here, like its wings, are in the form of what we call a hawk. They worship the hawk. But what these were, especially getting back to the elephant one, is they believed that they wouldn't use it necessarily for signaling. Then the animals would know where they are. But they might use it in preparation to talk to the spirit of the elephants, to ask them for safe passage in their hunting ground. So they might use it ritualistic that way. Then they might use it for signaling as well. So there's many reasons for using these whistles, but the hunter's whistles is either for their spiritual, to ask for passage and safe hunting in an area, or like this one, which is the Kuba people, and it gives you the status. If you are able to read the designs on it, it tells you their status literally in their society and who they are, so they have it made special for them. Okay?
Are there tonals in there? I can't
Yes,
see.
there is. There is one on one side, so you know it's like,
Okay.
so they can alter the pitch. So they can alter
Do
the
they
pitch.
also change their embouchure to change pitch?
They might,
Okay.
yeah. But mainly sound like a fluttering bird. And it might be to signal, or it might be used for a ritualistic, religious, asking for the spirit of safe passage, as a media to communicate to their spiritual beliefs. And that's how they would use their whistles. Being in musical instruments, most of them, except for this one right here, they are ocarinas. And ocarinas are clay flutes. I'm going to give you an example. This is a little bird ocarina. It's from the Shrine of Guadalupe. It doesn't matter because it is globular. Doesn't matter which finger I pick up. Doesn't matter which two fingers. You understand what I'm saying? So, this is like a whistle flute, but I wanted you to hear the difference in this one. Still got my 4 holes. Very low and hollow sounding, isn't it? Now, the people from Latin America, pre-Columbian, they would believe that spirits lived within these instruments. But to be very honest with you, we do not yet know their function. We believe they use them for communication, but we don't know specifically what that communication was. We know they're in the effigy of anthropomorphic and zoomorphic. Here you go, we got zoomorphic going on here. But we really don't know. Here, from Veracruz, this little flute is a head. Most of these pre-Columbian, the ones that I have, they are how in the world would I know and get them? They are deaccessions from other museums. And that's the only way I could really trace and authenticate what we have. And deaccessions is, now I didn't do this with Sheldon, but deaccession is, long ago, people used to put their instruments or lend them 50 years or so to museums, even the Metropolitan, all of them. And they would give their instruments on loan for 50 to 100 years. And then when after they're deceased, their relatives then become the bearers of it, and it's a deaccession. After the 50 years, 75 years, or whatever is up, then you have to ask the family what they want done with it. And usually, there's so many relatives by then, they go, just sell it. Get rid of it, split the money up, nobody wants it or whatever. And so, that's how you get it, as a deaccession. Or their focus, maybe they stop focusing on Latin American instruments, and so that's not their mission anymore, or something like that, and it becomes a deaccession piece. And that's what you want to get, because there you have the true provenance of the instrument. Okay, this one came from the Houston Art Museum, and so I go through and I go, I got that one from that museum. Okay, let's look over here. I want to show you one that's really interesting, the top one here, which is a Mayan water flute. Now people go, what's a water flute? Yes, water is used to create a sound. And yet it's an areophone. That top one, it's a Mayan areophone. And you can't see it, but where his mouth is a little slight opening. And this is what they did. They poured water in one of the trussels, and then it kind of halfway fills both of the vessels here. And then you tilt it, and that rushes the air to the other vessel, and it causes the air to come up the neck, split the edge, and make a sound. So every time you tilt it, it sounds like this. My whistler's not whistling. Can't laugh and whistle. Okay, everybody, help me out. Let's whistle. Ready, everybody? Everybody whistle. And then when you brought it back up, have you ever heard it like go, 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 go? It had that sound when you brought it back up. It was really amazing. And you know what? Up to the year 2000, they said it must be a child's toy. And then around 2000, they finally, now these are anthropologists, they kept finding them in big ground, buried. And they finally came up with it. And what it was is they're mourning, M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G, flutes. And if someone of prestige or the chief would pass away, they would walk through the town with a person, up there. And the people would make these mourning flutes, and it was like nature cried. And they would whistle. And then, when he went to the pyramid, they dug the hole, threw him in the hole, time for a new chief. And that was it. And that's why they buried them all together. So they were mourning flutes. This one, of course, this is the Mocha people, but this you'll find one almost identical to that at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. A little armadillo. This is the only one in here, but I loved him. He's Teotihuacan, but he is, he's just a warrior, a little warrior effigy. This is another flute, and then we have a bunch of flutes over here. The oldest in this collection is right here. This is the little green one. And this one is an old mech. An old mech, and it's called the Whistling Mascat. And it has been dated 1100 to 500 BC. So there's our 3,000 years. And, you know, it's made out of jade, so yeah, it would keep its farm that far back. All right, and then we'll come on over here. Right here, it took me about 3 decades to put this together, but here you can see the pattern. These are all ocarinas. This is an armadillo. Here's a young lady here, and this was found right here. It's a symbol, you know. She's got big fat legs, and her legs are separated. Well, this would be, this right here was found in a burial ground, and they believe that these were buried. Nicoya people from Veracruz, no, Costa Rica. Nicoya people, she was like buried with a person, and they believed that she would help him in his birth to another spiritual world. They were burying him, and then they bury these flutes that are in this effigy of a woman. And so she was to help him in his birth to his afterlife. Over here, we have a teponazzi. And these are Aztec instruments right here. Aztec instruments. That's got an H form, and these are the actual mallets. You hold where the hands are, and you cover the other end with animal skin. And that's what you beat it with the animal skin, so it's not wood against wood. Teponazzis, and this is a wawalu. The drums of the Mayans and the Aztecs were all pedestal drums. Pedestal drums, not like your African drums that have skins with pegs and holes and stuff. And the reason they were pedestal drums is they were used in their ritualistic sacrificing ceremonies at night. And they had to make a drum on legs so that they could take a little stick, like a torch, and on the end, light it. And because it has legs, they would slide the torch in. You could see the design on the drum. Remember, there's no electricity. It only lights the moon. And it would heat up the drum head so it would be tighter, take the liquid out of the membrane, and they'd play the drums like that. Now, they use these instruments during the sacrifices, and that's why they are hardly anywhere to be found, because they were destroyed by the Europeans, because they used their instruments during their ritual. They didn't believe the sun would rise unless they made sacrifices. In 1486, they had taken it to the extreme that if you do your math, in just that year alone, they were sacrificing over 50 people a day. And so that's why their culture eventually got demolished, because of that belief system of severe sacrificing. And I have to say this also, it wasn't just Montezuma, you know, that got destroyed. Cortez, who do you think they were sacrificing? The neighboring native people. And so Cortez was there for over a year getting reinforcements from all the other native people to go with him to overturn Montezuma and the Aztec Empire. It wasn't just Cortez. It was all the other people around, native people there. Okay, then we couldn't do anything about Latin America without just mentioning the Caribbean here. The reason I didn't put them in is because, yes, we have bongos, we have congos, and they're all drums we already know and see. But what we do have here is an authentic, what we call a pawn. You would call it a pan, they call it, and they still spell it P-A-N, but they call it a pawn. Steel pans is what we call. And these are from Trinidad and Tobago, and some are from Barbados, and they use them for carnival. And this is an original 55-gallon. They made those steel pans after World War II. They made drums out of all those oil barrels. And this is one of the actual ones made from back during that period. And then a cahoon. These are all reminiscent of Africa too, if you look at them. Now, to my left is a very large marimba. And this marimba actually came from Epcot Center. It was used for the opening of Epcot Center, but more important than that is the maker, R.E.B. Barrios is his name. And he is a legend. This is a Guatemalan 8.5 octave, 9.5 foot. 4 people play it. His home is now, he died in 1996, somewhere in there. And his marimbas were requested from all over the world as far as museums go. But his home now is a museum there. His sons never thought anything about it, but they just kept getting so many people wanting his marimbas, and they thought they had the tools. They never really watched what Dad did, but they thought they'd try and make them. Well, guess what? They didn't know. And the main thing, this is a rosewood, a very special rosewood that's grown, and it tells you right there in the region, Genoa, somewhere in Guatemala, it's an endangered species, so there's no more. And to make these, he would make them out of wood that's seasoned for 20 to 40 years before he would build the instrument. Otherwise, the wood will split on you. Anybody that knows wood, if you don't age it long enough, it'll split on you. And this is one of his masterpieces right here. It's Guatemalan, and that's the national instrument. Over here we have a harp from Cusco, which is in Peru, and then we have a charango, which is made out of an armadillo. And if you look at the back, yes, it is an armadillo. There's no more of these either, because this armadillo, not the ones we find here in Missouri, just going a little south, the 3-toed armadillo is an endangered species now. So there's no more made out of the actual animal, but that is the 3-toed armadillo there. It's called a charango. Then it is divided by region. By region. So here we have the oldest, which is Chinese. And down here, Gu Chin is the oldest one. The word Gu means old, Chin means string. It's the oldest that we have record of, over 3,000 years old. Not that one, but the history of theirs comes from, and all the other Asian instruments do tend to borrow from China, obviously. These are instruments. Right here we have a geho. It's part of what we call an erhu. And it's used for Cantonese opera. We have a sona, which is a double reed instrument. We have a lu, which is a gong. And right here, this is a hexstar, a string instrument. Now, from that, I have divided it up into, this is Japanese, this right here is Tibetan, this is a sarenge, and yes, that is the original reed, which I would never put in my mouth. But this is a bowed instrument. You notice when they go in a little bit, that tells you it's a bowed instrument. If it doesn't have a little like that inside, you can't get the bow around. So that's bowed. And what's interesting is it isn't much of, we used to think it had to have a bridge that was arched, but not all of them do that. So this is a sarenge from Nepal. Over here we have Korean instruments, 3 Korean instruments. The chango, you're going to find, because it's a tonal language, their drums also are hour-shaped so that they can make different pitches to talk with their drums. And you'll see this Zumi, which is Japanese, is also an hour-shaped drum. Anytime you see an hour-shaped drum and things holding on, it's to communicate. Not just rhythm and signaling, but a language as well.
In India as well?
Most of, right here we have South Asia, which is India. This is a very special sitar. Tambura, which they don't use now. Now they use harmoniums, which are little electric, pump organs. But that's the tambura, the tabla. This is the sarod. And then here is a bansuri, a wind instrument. Now, most bansuris are made out of bamboo, but this one's a brass one. And he's got, as it is, up there on top. I'm sorry.
What is that?
That's called a sarod, and that is a resonator. And you drop something and it ripples out. You know how water ripples out? That's the way sound waves travel. They just hit the next sound wave and then the next sound wave. And so if you enclose an area, it vibrates and makes it louder. And that's the amplitude, the height of the sound wave. Over here, just so that we did not have room, and then the maritime region, you have Laos, you have Vietnam, and then down below you have Indonesia, and we just didn't have the room to put those instruments as well, so we're still got them, we're still going to put them in. Bali instruments, but right now, we just have. So what we did is we tried to add a bell from all regions, so they're all represented. And over here, this is Japanese. And there's your koto, your biwa, the shakuhachi. This is your shell. This right here is a sunshin. And a sunshin is from Okinawa. And it became like this, which is a shamisen, which is the instrument they use for theater. Okay? And there's Suzumi. The last case right over here happens to be the actual sheko in a taragenga. These are actually came from another museum. These were the instruments that were used for the coronation of Yoshihitu, which was in 1912. And he became the emperor of Japan in 1912, and these were instruments. I got those from another museum too. They just aren't floating out there on the internet. You can't go buy them. All right, does now
Anybody have any questions? Did I?